He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 4, and today we've got one of the winningest coaches in the state of Georgia history. I think he's got 177 wins, 73% winning percentage, state champion. He's now retired, but he's working over in Alabama still coaching. One of the last of the hard, Coach Steve Devoursney. Thanks for being on with us.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
Well, Coach, I know that you grew up in Thomaston and played at Robert E. Lee High School. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you played just football, or did you play something else as well?
I played football and basketball and baseball.
So a 3-sport athlete. Wasn't rare back then, was it?
No, sir.
Who was your head coach in high school?
My head coach was Tommy Purdue.
So y'all got like Junction Boys treatment back then, wasn't it?
Well, you had to be tough to play football for him, for sure. He was going to make you a man, whether you wanted to be a one or not.
And y'all won a state championship when you were in high school?
Yes, sir. We my sophomore year we played for it. We lost to Central Carrollton, and then my junior year we won it. We beat Washington Wilkes on a field goal.
And did you play both sides of the ball, or did y'all two platoon? How did y'all do it back then?
My sophomore and my junior year, I just played defense, and then my senior year, I played offense and defense.
So did you go play college football, or?
No, I actually went and played college baseball. I played at Lurleen B. Wallace in Andalusia, Alabama. So I played at a junior college for 2 years after I graduated high school.
And how was that?
It was good. It was good. Me and our quarterback, and then when our Tommy Parks, who used to be the head coach at Harris County and Upson Lee, we all three went there and graduated from there and moved on. Went to 4 year after that.
So where'd you go after that?
I went to Georgia Southern. I just went as a student. Didn't play any sports once I went there.
So that's how you met up with Nick Davis and Paul Carroll and all of that bunch. Is that how you got to know them? Did you know them in college, or you just got to know them through coaching?
Well, some of them through coaching, but most of them. I mean, if you went to Georgia Southern, most of them down there. Paul, we used to run around together, and Michael Nelson, the guy that sells all the shoulder pads and helmets and everything, that's in and out, and all of us went to Georgia Southern at the time, down there together.
Yeah, I was down there as well until they asked me to leave and never come back. But I had too good of a time while I was down there. But I was behind y'all. Y'all are a little bit older than me. Y'all were like seniors when I was a freshman down there. But we had it stroked out. Like Mondays we went to like Bubba's for boxing, and then Tuesdays we went to Blind Willie's because it was nickel draft and you could shoot pool for free. And then Wednesdays was like bash night at Buffalo's. I mean, we had something to do every night, and I did a little bit too much of that, not enough school.
Yeah. Happens to the best of them down there.
So did you know all along you wanted to be a coach, or did you go to do something else?
When I first started, I thought I might go into physical therapy or something like that. I knew I wanted to do something with sports. Then I realized when I saw the sciences and maths, I wasn't that smart. So I said, shoot, I better do something I can do. So That's when I went into coaching.
So what was your first job out of college?
I went to Georgia Military. I did coach linebackers and special teams at Georgia Military Junior College in Milledgeville, Georgia.
And who was your head coach there?
Robert Nunn was the head coach. He spent about 20 years in the NFL. He was a D-line coach for the Giants when Strahan and all them won the Super Bowl. He was a great coach. He played at Oklahoma State, and then Doug Meacham was our offensive coordinator, and he just this week got announced as the OC at Oklahoma State, so he was an Oklahoma State guy too. And then Dale Jones, who played at Tennessee, he was our defensive coordinator, and he went on probably at App State for about 20 years. I think last year was his last year as a defense coordinator there. So I had a really good staff that kind of taught me the game of football at an early age, and all three of those guys were great to me, trying to teach me the game of football.
So how long did you stay there?
I was just there just a year. I knew I wanted to do high school football. They tried to get me to stay, and they tried to get me to go take a GA job in different colleges, but I knew I wanted to coach high school. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So after I left there, I went to Jones County for a spring. I was going to go there. David Cape was the head coach, and I went through spring with him, and then Coach Steve Shankweiler called me when he was at Griffin, and that was a lot closer to home. So I ended up my first job at Griffin High School.
So what did you do? What was your position at Griffin as a young coach? I guess defensive side of the ball, obviously.
Yeah, I was the special teams coordinator and linebacker coach my first year at Griffin. With Shankweiler as the head coach.
And how long did you stay there? I mean, did you just stay there until you got the head coaching job?
I did. I was there. Shank was there for 2 years, then he left, and Darryl Jones became the head coach. And then when he left, he named me the defense coordinator. And then when he left, he was there for 2 years and left, went to Wayne County. Then they brought in David McKnight, and I was going to Northside. I was going to go to Northside, work with Conrad Nix, and they talked me into staying, and gave me an extra playing period and gave me a bump in pay to try to keep me. So I stayed, and then they let him go that year, and that's when I became the head coach.
And then how long did it take after you became the head coach before y'all won that state championship?
About 10 years. It was about 10 years before we won it. We had a really good class, had some good coaches, and we made some good runs there. When I was there, but finally broke through in 2013 to win it.
So when you took over as the head coach, when you got to put your spin on it or your mark on it, what was the first thing you decided that you needed to do?
At the time, I was the youngest head coach in the state of Georgia. I was only 28. But playing at R.E. Lee and under Coach Purdue and Doug Mills and a bunch of really good coaches, the first thing I knew I wanted to do is make them tough. And so I said, one thing we're going to do, I don't know how many games we're going to win, but we're going to be tough. We're going to be physical. And we never practiced without full pads on. It didn't matter if it was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We had full pads on every day. And they knew on Thursday it was going to be a walkthrough, but a couple of times it turned into a scrimmage day for the game, just because we were going to try to make them tough.
Just depended on whether they needed to be properly motivated or not on Thursday.
That's right. That's right. So if they wanted to go through the motions or not, and we were going to do that. I remember that year we were playing Jordan, and Jordan wasn't very good at the time, and they had a running back. I mean, he rushed for 200 yards, and I was so mad, and we went out at halftime. We didn't even go in the locker room. We just went out behind it. We did bull in the ring the whole 30 minutes during halftime, and so we come back out, and we finally shut the kid down, and then he goes on to play at Oklahoma State. Has a great career. And I guess, well, maybe he wasn't that bad of a running back.
Maybe it wasn't us.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just good.
Yeah.
It still pisses you off though, when the kids don't do what you want them to do. And you tell them all the time, you're like, guys, this is totally dependent on you. We're about here as long as y'all want to be.
That's right.
So what were some of the guys you had on your staff when you were at Griffin? I know you had some great assistant coaches while you were there.
Oh yeah. I mean, golly, I had so many.
Yeah, I know some run through there.
When the first thing I did was I wanted to try to make sure I hired a good staff. My first year, I knew I needed help, young coach and all that. And I hired on defense. I hired Ricky Herzog as my defensive coordinator, and he was a really good coach. And then Paul Carroll was my linebacker coach at the time, and he was a good coach too, and motivated the kids. And then offense, Will Orban, I brought him in to be my offense coordinator, and he did a great job for me. And I had so many coaches come through there. Justin Rogers down at Thomas County Central. Tony Graziano was with us when I won the state championship.
Rock.
Yeah, the Rock. Rusty Eason, Antonio Andrews, who became the head coach at Griffin. Carl Kearney, later became the head coach at Spalding. Just so many guys that did a great job for me, and went on to be great coaches. Edgar Carson, that's head coach at Lovejoy right now. So had a lot of good coaches come through Griffin. A lot more than that. That helped me, tremendously. Put a good product out on the field.
Well, talk a little bit about what it's like to coach at somewhere with the tradition of Griffin. I mean, it's the expectation of the community back then, and I mean, even now, is just the number of athletes that have come through there and great football players. And I mean, from Coach Bohannon to Shank to you, I mean, it's Griffin's traditionally been known as a powerhouse. And I mean, they've fallen on hard times here recently, but I mean, what was it like being the guy? I mean, you were on the staff there, you knew what it took, but then taking over, I mean, I imagine the community, their expectations were pretty astronomical.
Yeah, Griffin's one of those places, that was the only place I ever been in high school, so I didn't know no better. I thought every school was like that. And but sometimes they, their expectations are higher than what they want to. Some schools will give you what you need to win and have high expectations, but they didn't give you much. You just had to do with what you had and go get it done. But you always had players. If you could get them to Friday night, you were going to have a chance, because you always had kids that would run and then hit you and play hard and play physical, because it meant something to them because of the tradition. And a lot of them's uncles and fathers and everybody else, cousins that played there, so it meant something to them when they stepped out on that field.
Well, it was probably a tough question to ask, especially you were the head coach there for over 10 years and y'all had so much success, but who are some of the better or best players you coached while you were there? I'm not going to ask you who the best one was. That's too hard to do. But who are some that stand out that you're like, that kid was a freaking dude?
Well, yeah, I'd say the first one probably Bobby Rainey. He played running back, and he was just really physical, hard runner, and just very rarely did one person ever tackle him. And he didn't have the great speed or size, but I mean he was just he's going to give you everything you got every play. And I think his sophomore and junior year, he never came off the field. He played offense and defense every snap. And sometimes he would tote the ball like 40 times a game. I remember we were on TV and we beat somebody. He rushed for 350 yards on 42 carries. And they were asking me after the game, did I think that was too many carries? And I was like, we probably should have gave it to him 3 or 4 more times because he was that good. Yeah. And but he was really a good player. Sidney Harris was a good football player also that came through with him. Sherrod Martin, Toby Jackson's probably one of the best defensive players I coached there. Xavier Dixon that went to Alabama. Corey Moore that went to Georgia. I mean, there was a lot of good players that came through there. Jaquez Parks, our quarterback, when we won the state championship, I mean, he was probably the best quarterback we ever had when we came through there. He was real smart. He could throw the ball. He could run. At one time, I think he had the state record in the state championship game for total yards in a state championship game. I mean, he was just a really smart kid, and just made it a lot easier when you're out there because he would make checks and things like that to get us in the right situation.
Yeah, I remember that year we were sitting up in the mezzanine, and I mean, I can say this now because it's over with, but all the other coaches, when we're sitting up there, we talk about y'all while y'all down there, or some of them do. And we were like, if Devo don't win it this year, I don't know if they're going to be able to win it because they got them this year, and y'all sure did, and y'all did a great job with them. And you had a bunch of people pulling for you. I know that. See y'all finally get over the hump right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those deals. There are some schools that it don't matter who the head coach is, you're gonna have a shot to win a state championship there, at a certain time. But there's some schools that they don't come around that much, and you got to take advantage of it when you got the team to do it. And we were very fortunate enough to get it done that year. And I don't know if they'll ever win another one there, but at least we got that one.
Right. So when you left Griffin, you went to Cairo, right?
Yes, sir.
So you went to Cairo as the head coach, or you went as
No,
an assistant?
that's when I got fired at Griffin. So I couldn't really find a job in the state. And then Tom Falal called me and said, "Hey, I'll get you a job." And I was like, "Shoot, you ain't gonna be able to hire me." And then he said, "Oh, I'll get you hired." And so I went down with him and was his DC for a year. And then his father died when we were there, and he was really close with his dad. And he kind of just decided to hang it up out of the blue. And, he just was going to be the AD, and he asked me if I would take it over. And I said I would. And so he kind of stepped down and became the AD and named me the head coach after that season.
Yeah, I remember I met you. You were the head baseball coach for a hot minute there. And y'all were in between baseball coaches at Cairo. Yep. And I was at Early County, and we came down there to play summer. So I can't remember what it was, but everybody was like, right. Devo's the baseball coach. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. And it was just weird because I didn't know that you were a baseball person. I just knew you as a football coach. And y'all had the boy that ended up going to Hathcock, whatever that boy's name was, ended up going to Georgia. And I think he was a sophomore, junior. I don't know. He was younger, but he was good then. And I came down there with my merry band of misfits, and we joked because I put one of my young kids in, and every time we'd go to Brooks County or Thomasville, and we'd go through Cairo, and he had given up a home run. Somebody had hit one onto the softball field. And so we'd go through Cairo. I'd always mess with him. And I'd say, I go, "Hey man, you remember when that kid hit that ball? I think it landed right here in that Burger King parking lot, because it's like the next block over." So I just remember we played there. As soon as he hit it, our kids were laughing. Like they put their gloves over their face like, good God, that kid hit that a mile. But I remember you coaching baseball down there. I remember coming down there and watching y'all play Sandy Creek in the playoffs one year.
Yeah.
And Rock wasn't working with y'all yet because I was standing in the end zone with Rock. No, he was working with y'all because he came and talked to us. Me and David Bell were standing in the end zone, and Rock was going pregame with the linebackers, and he came over there and said something. And Coach Rodney Walker was at the game. And anyway, I just remember when Sandy Creek came down there, that was a heck of a football game.
That was. We always had good games with Sandy Creek. Chip, he always did a great job. I think that might have been, can't remember if that was his last game or he went one more year before he went to Newman, but it was it, always came down to the fourth quarter.
So how much different was Cairo than Griffin, since all you knew was Griffin, and then you go to Cairo and it's like South Georgia football for real.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that were kind of the same, but I mean, they have a rabid fan base too, and a lot of support. And
yes, they, Cairo really, more than Griffin, they want to win, so they back you. They're going to give you more resources and things. At Griffin, I had more athletes. I had, a lot more athletes, and at Cairo, I had more football players. They wasn't the fastest or the biggest, but they were just tough, and they were going to play hard, and they were going to give you everything they got. It meant something to them. And, you was going to have a good booster club at Cairo, and you could, if you need to get money for a charter bus or feed the team, it wasn't going to be hard to find somebody to help you out down there.
You had good staffs down there too.
I did. I was very fortunate. I did. David Coleman was my DC, who's the head coach now, and he always did a good job for me. Rock was a DC for me there, and he's always done a great job everywhere he's been. And then Jeremy Edwards, who's the head coach at Houston County right now. He was my OC for a little bit and did a great job. So had some really good guys down there too. Been very fortunate everywhere I've been. I always had really good assistant coaches. A ton of them at Griffin, and then at Cairo. I wasn't there but 7 years as head coach, but had a lot of good assistants. Brandon Byram, who's the head coach at Taylor now. My son, who's the DC at Taylor now. So we had a very fortunate to have good coaches up under me everywhere I've been.
What was it like having your son work for you?
It was good. It was. It's nice. You can yell at him. He can't say nothing back to you. I can fire you now. But no, it was good. He was a good young coach. He has a lot of energy, and I remember one time I got on me down there playing 7-on-7 with the D line, and I'm like, son, they ain't ever gonna be playing 7-on-7. So let's not do that. But he did a really good job for me, and it was fun coaching with him.
Yeah,
just
Jess
spending
does
time
a
with
good job.
him.
Yeah, you didn't get to coach him in high school, so I imagine that was really a big deal to get to have him work for you.
It was.
Yeah, I've enjoyed working with him. He's great with the kids, high energy, really smart, does a good job. We like to pick at him. Brandon was like, make sure you get Devo on him. I said, he ain't going to say nothing bad about his own youngin'. But that's funny. I can see him down there playing 7-on-7 with big kids.
I remember.
He does try to make it fun for them.
Yeah. I remember we're playing Thompson, I think it was the second round of the playoffs, and I think we're up, I don't know, like 21-7 or something like that. And he comes up to me, we're finna kick it off, we just scored. And he comes up to me, he goes, Dad, I think you got an onside kick over there if you ever need it. And I put my arm around him, I said, watch this, son. And we onside kicked it right where he was talking about, and we got it.
Birds of a feather. Great minds think alike. Probably made you feel good that he was paying that much attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think you're the only one that sees stuff out there. Who were some of your better players at Cairo?
Let's see. Matthew Peters was our quarterback at one time. He was a good kid. He went signed with Navy, so it tells you the kind of character he had. Malik Walker, one of our defensive ends, he was just a high motor kid. He just gave you everything. Kobe Pierce, he was a O-lineman and a long snapper for us, probably one of the best long snappers I've ever had. He went and walked on at Georgia and as a long snapper and did good. Walter Grant, he played linebacker and running back for us and went to Georgia. The twins, we had two twins. One of them like UT Chattanooga, and one of them at Fort Valley. They both of them just played so hard, and physical kids. Had more O lineman, D lineman types there. Just hard nosed physical kids. They were, didn't have any tall kids. Cairo's always been short. I've always called them gnats just because they were short and they'd get to the football. But we just never had any tall or big kids there. But I mean, they were mostly anywhere from 5'8" to 5'11", and 160 pounds. But they always played so much bigger than that just because they just meant so much to them.
Yeah, I've told people, especially from Metro, my years at Americus and early, and they want to know, like, what's the difference between South Georgia kids and these kids up here? And I'm like, well, they're generally tougher because they grow up differently. They don't have as much. I mean, you got a lot of kids that they just don't have a whole lot, so they're a little bit tougher. And, well, sometimes they're a lot tougher. And their football IQ, I'm glad you said, you had better athletes at Griffin, but you had better football players at Cairo. I've always said the South Georgia kids seem to have higher football IQs. They're not going to win many spelling contests, but by God, they know football. I mean, we were like that at Americus. I mean, our kids weren't, we didn't have a whole lot of choir boys, and they weren't, they were fine when they were with us, but like we had to get them to Friday. And we had some rogues, which was okay because we didn't have any thugs, we didn't have any turds, but we had some rogues. We had some we had to worry about every now and then. But Bobby Mack told me, when I first got started, you needed some rogues, especially on defense. But I mean, would you agree that those kids their football IQ seems to be higher?
Yeah, I mean they're just they're just around it so much, and they try. When I first went to Cairo, they were like, they scheduled the band and the football players first to make sure they got everything they need, and then they schedule everybody else. And I'm, like she does. Usually it's not that way, but South Georgia's just different. They're gonna make sure, they say it just means more down there. And, they don't usually have the players like they do in Atlanta, and just because there's so many numbers, but they do put a lot into it and try to get everything they can out of every kid to make them better. And so I guess that does go along with having a higher IQ.
So you retired from you got your 30 in at Cairo, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you headed to Alabama. That's where you're at now, correct?
Right. Yes, sir.
So where'd you go immediately after Cairo?
So when I retired in Cairo, I went to Orange Beach High School. And it hadn't been in high school very long. They were only been open about 3 years, I think, before I got there. And so I was there. I've been there I was there for 2 years. Jamie Dubose, that was at the Lounge, he was the head coach for the 2 years I was there. And then he left, and they brought in somebody else. So then I went to Foley High School, just right up the road. And I work for Derek Scott now.
So that's Daphne?
It's right below Daphne. It's Foley. It's where Julio Jones played.
Right. Okay. Because I was just curious. My in-laws live in Bay Minette, so when we go shopping when we're down there, they go to where the Bass Pro Shop is, and
right.
Daphne on this side of Montgomery, or not Montgomery. What's the big city down there? Mobile. Yeah, on this side of Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that town is, Daphne, I guess it is.
Daphne's right there. Spanish Fort.
Yeah, right Spanish there. Fort. That's it. Okay. It's got all the mall, and I mean, it's like Metro Atlanta. I mean, as far as South Alabama goes, they got a lot of mall and Bass Pro Shop and shopping, places to eat. And we always end up down there. So that ain't far from where you're at, right?
No, it's not far at all. It's like we're all in the same county. Like before you get to Mobile, like Spanish Fort's Baldwin County, and you come down, it's Daphne. Then if you come down a little bit more, it's us. And then Orange Beach and Gulf Shores High School are right below Foley at the beach.
So how much different was it, going South Alabama and LA and lower Alabama football compared to which, I mean, is it just football is football to you? It doesn't really matter. I mean, were the kids any different or, I mean, I know Orange Beach is pretty affluent, so I mean, it's kind of a
Yeah.
different clientele probably.
Yeah, I mean, it was different than what I was used to. Football is football, but it's just the numbers are so smaller in Alabama. So like, at Orange Beach was a 4A and there are only 450 kids. So, at Cairo we were a 4A, we had 1,250 kids. So it's just the numbers are a lot smaller in Alabama.
Yes, like every little town in Alabama has a high school and they have a football team. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's kind of old school. Had Ken Kofer on earlier and he talked about how he liked it because it was kind of a throwback to the old days.
Yes.
When everybody had a high school and, you could still, there's a lot of pride, every little town would turn out for all their games and sidewalks rolled up and stuff like that. So how much different is Foley? I mean, they're in the same county, but I imagine each school's got its own little different, type of kid. And
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, you drive up in the parking lot of Orange Beach and all you see is Mercedes and Volvos and Audis and big jacked up trucks. So, it costs a lot of money to live in Orange Beach. So it's a pretty affluent school. And then, Foley's a good school too, but it's more diverse, obviously, than there. And see a lot of different types of kids and stuff.
a little bit more realistic to normal.
Yeah, a little bit
around.
more what I'm used to.
Yeah, I imagine. I would have a hard time dealing with kids that make more money than I do. So
Yeah.
it'd be kind of rough trying to get onto one of them and they look at you like,
Yeah.
you talking to me?
Yeah.
My
Most of them
allowance is
never-
more than you make, sir.
That's right. That's most of them know they're not going to play college football. They're going to a fraternity as soon as they graduate. So they're just kind of having fun with it.
And that's got to be a different kind of animal to coach too when you're so used to kids that need you more, than those kids
Oh,
need
yeah.
you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm
No
not saying they're
question.
bad kids at all. I'm just saying, I've always gravitated, I think you have too, to the kids that they need us,
Right.
instead of these
Okay.
other kids, they're just checking a box. And it's just like you said, it's something to do.
I remember my first 2 weeks at Orange Beach. Like I'd be one of the last ones off the practice field, and I'd come in, and I always think, man, something's different, something's wrong. And then finally, I figured it out. Every time I came in off the practice field, there was nobody there. All the kids were gone. Most of them drove, or their parents were sitting there waiting on them. I was like, dang, I was like, dang, you ain't got to take nobody home, or
They're not just hanging
Talk-
out.
yeah, not hanging out. Don't have to cancel nobody today. Nobody got anything stolen. So, you're just kind of like, wow, this is different.
So have you enjoyed kind of stepping away from the head coaching seat for a little while and going back to being a coordinator, or has that been refreshing? I mean, I know you want to be a head coach again, probably, because you still got plenty of good years left in you, but
I always try to learn, so that's, one of my things. I always try to step back and see how, take what I see and say, hey, I'd use that again if I was a head coach, or, things I don't like. And, but, I've always had fun. To me, it's always fun to being a coordinator or assistant because nobody's calling you complaining and you don't have to worry about that. And, and so, it's always fun and just, kind of, I guess, gets you ready to be a head coach again. But, I'm starting to get that itch again to be a head coach. So, hopefully God's got something planned for me down the road.
Well, in that direction, what's some things over the 30 years that you've, or 30 years plus that you've done that you've seen in the game, the high school game, that's just changed, that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that, good or bad, that you're just like, well, this sucks, or hey, that's pretty good that we do that now?
I mean, I know officiating's changed. I don't know if that's for the good though. But I think technology in the game has been really good. I think it makes you a better coach. So, when we first started, shoot, there was no YouTube or huddle assist or anything like that. You just had to do everything yourself, which I think, you know, teaches the game better. But, I think this technology has really, really helped the game. And, you know, if they're going to go to replay, like in the state championships, I think that's going to help, because you don't want to lose a game off, a bad call or something like that. So, I think technology's obviously improved the game, is going to help it, equipment, all that stuff. I remember when we played, those helmets felt like putting on a sack of potatoes or something. But, so, technology and all that. So I think the game's gotten a little softer than when I played, but I think, technology is making it better as far as coaches and things like that.
What have you noticed about the younger generation of coaches? Is they anything different about them that is that bothers you, or anything that you're happy, hopeful about with them? I mean, your kid's Jess is gonna do what he does. The ones you raised are gonna be different. But I'm just talking about your random, not a coach's kid guy that's coming into the profession now.
Well, just like being an assistant, I've seen, I've been the assistant, and so, and I just remember saying to myself, man, I hope my dang coaches don't talk bad about me like this when I was a head coach, and but I think time and I think some of the like I just couldn't stand for a coach to be late. I didn't care if you text me or told me or what, but I just felt like that was something that so my coaches were never late, but I guess you see more and more of that today. Just I don't know why, but I just don't like. I think I don't know. It's just a different generation, and you know, we'd be, even when I was at Cairo, we'd be wrapping up and leave, and they're talking about going home and play each other on video games and stuff. And I'm like, I played video games, but it wasn't. That wasn't my whole life. Was going to play a video game.
Yeah, they're different. I'm just worried sometimes about, their lack of patience. We pulled strings and we washed laundry and we took kids home, and some of these guys come out thinking that they're going to go straight to coordinator, straight to head coach, and win 4 or 5 games, and then they're going to get the best job that's open in the state. And I'm like, no, dog, you ain't. That ain't how this works.
No.
Unless you know somebody, you're gonna have to win a little bit more than what you've been doing to. And you might think you've done a good job, but some of these jobs are big dog jobs, and if you ain't one, you just ain't. You just got to keep working.
Yeah, no question. I mean, a lot of them, and I think it's good that they want to jump fast, but like you said, you got to earn your time, and it's funny the one that bothers me is like the ones that work, that want to jump fast. That don't bother me, but if you're one of the ones that don't work, and then when the coordinator job comes open or something, and you come ask, okay, hey, can I interview for that? I'm gonna be one of I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't think you're ready for that, buddy.
Yeah, you better get better at what we want you to do around here before we start trying to move you up.
Yeah, let's coordinate those water coolers a little bit better. let's coordinate those managers a little bit better than what we've been doing. But
Question.
which is something we've all had to do and continue to do. I mean, that's just part of it. And I agree. I mean, I'm all for advancement, and I don't have a problem with if you're 27 and you're smarter than me, which is a better than average chance. If you can breathe, you're smarter than I am. But that's not the issue. It's the just thinking that you automatically are entitled to that opportunity, which is not that's not in fact how it works. But it's been interesting to see the evolution of the game and how it changes and how it continues to change, because it's come a long way from your days at Robert E. Lee with the Thomaston Junction boys to what the game's turned into these days.
Oh, no question.
You
Shoot, they were
couldn't do to these kids now what they did to y'all.
nah. Shoot, they'd be trying to arrest Coach Purdue and fire him. He would if they try to practice like he practiced us back then.
Well, there wasn't no time constraints.
No, we didn't practice long, but even back then. But I mean, we didn't have water on the field. We usually had ice, and I mean, we were doing something the whole time, and usually it was live, and most of the time it was ones against ones. So, and if we wasn't doing it right, he'd come diving in on the pile, swinging, and whoever got hit, got hit. Yeah, you better get up and get back in the huddle.
No wonder y'all were so freaking tough. You didn't have a choice.
No, it didn't. I remember we were at football camp, and we were practicing 3 times a day, and you had to go and shoulder pads and helmets one practice. So we did that at night. So our 2:00 practice, we went full pads, and he was like, "Well, if we can practice in full pads at 2:00, we'll be fine at 7:30 at night." And so, I mean, heat of the day, we're getting. So we had this one kid said he was going to quit, and he was like, "Where's he at?" He said, "He's in the dorm." And I remember he went to fussing, and he came out, and he was kicking this kid out the door, and his helmet was falling down. He was like, "You gonna quit when you get home? You don't quit here." And we were in West Georgia, Carrollton. He finished camp, and after he finished, he got back and quit.
He kept his word.
Yeah, he did, but he wasn't going to quit there.
Coach Purdue wasn't going to have that.
No, he wasn't.
You couldn't do that to a kid today. Good Lord, they just different. I mean, I get it, but it's just so much. The games were so safety conscious, which is a good thing. And you didn't have as many people get hurt back then. It doesn't seem like. I mean, somebody was talking the other day. You know how the officials talk to you before the game, and they're like, "Coach, you got anybody with a cast?" And he was like, "Crap, I ain't got nobody that would play with a cast if they had one." You know how you used to have to pad them up. I mean, you still do, but you very rarely see kids playing these days with a cast.
No, they'll take the 2 weeks off or whatever. You got to come back.
Go talk to whoever the doctor was, because if they go to the doctor, that's 6 weeks, regardless of what's wrong with them.
It's different.
So if you're interviewing for a head coaching job and they say, "Coach Devoursney, what's your coaching philosophy?" What would you share with them as your overarching coaching philosophy?
I mean, just going to work hard. We're going to put everything we got into it. We're going to run an offense that suits our kids. We're going to play physical on defense, and we're going to try to, we're going to put the hours in. We're going to do it right. We're going to, somebody's kids out there, we're going to try to give them every opportunity to be successful. And, that's just kind of how I've always been. We're going to work hard, and we're going to try to outwork the team we play, and everything we do. And, whether it's the coaching aspect, the practice aspect, or the weight room or conditioning, we're going to try to be as best as we can be when we step out on that field in every phase, and make sure we've done everything we can to be successful. And I think that's, and at the end of the day, if you look parents in the eyes and the kids and the coaches and say, "Hey, we've done everything we could to win this game," at the end of the day, I think that's all you can ask for.
Well, you sure have done it. You've done it enough to win a pile of football games and become one of the most successful coaches that our state's ever produced. And it's been fun to follow your teams over the years, and the great coaches that have come from your tree, and to know that you still want to do it and still want to affect young men and help them out and give back to the game. I'm glad that you're still doing that, and I'm glad you came on with us today to share your story.
Oh, I appreciate it. I mean, appreciate what you do and promoting our sport. And I mean, you've done this for a long time. I feel like I've known you forever. I remember Rock used to talk about you all the time, and just put so many hours into just trying to help coaches and try to help the sport. So appreciate what you've done all these years too.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.